Hi everybody. This is our second video in gear-specific second gear-specific macro gear video that could probably have been worded better if I worked off a script and not off the cuff. So you'll see here I'm grabbing a camera and an array of lenses. These three devices are reverse lens adapters, and what they do is allow a lens to be mounted backwards onto the body of a camera. You will lose things like metering, which is important, and so you will need a camera which is aperture priority in order to simplify macro photography. This is an old Pentax K2. This technique works well for DSLRs because you can chimp, but for if you're using film, this works best with an aperture priority camera. That's a 52. This is a 55 adapter. That's not the way this was supposed to start, inauspiciously. So this adapter that I just tried to use unsuccessfully, all three of these are K-mount adapters. This allows a lens with a 55 millimeter thread to be mounted in the reverse on a camera. So for instance, if it weren't in the other room, I'd grab a Minolta Celtic 135 millimeter that I have. It's got a 55 millimeter thread. Any lens with a 55 millimeter thread, regardless of brand, can be mounted backwards with one of these. Not all of them work as macro lenses, as I've found out the hard way a few times, but they can be mounted. So this is a 52 millimeter. It doesn't have a dot on it. There we go. This is a very cheap one. It doesn't even indicate how to load it onto the camera. It's a 52 millimeter thread. There we go. 52 millimeter thread adapter. So as you can see, this Canon FD 50 millimeter 1 to 1.8 lens is now mounted backwards on this Pentax. So what happens when, let's see it, oh boy, this is why I should have a better setup at home. Anyway, this is these videos. So what happens when you mount a lens backwards on a camera is that it magnifies what's in front of it. Different lenses work in different ways, and some lenses work and some lenses don't, and the only way to find out if your lenses will or won't work is to experiment. This last one, this is a 67 millimeter thread size. So you can see it's much larger on the body of this camera. This is a Pentax 6x7 105 millimeter lens. The 67 millimeter thread diameter. So you can see it looks kind of hilarious mounted backwards on this. The only problem is it doesn't actually work. I've tried it on my K7, which I'm using to videotape this right now, and it just, for whatever reason, my two 6x7 lenses don't really like being mounted backwards. I haven't figured out if I'm doing something wrong or if they just don't work that way. Some lenses simply don't work that way. There's one other advantage to having, so I have three of these in 67, 55, and 52 millimeter. One advantage to having a large diameter like the 67 is that if I need more space than the 52 affords me, I can grab these step-down rings. And increasing the distance between the front of the lens and the film plane or the digital sensor will increase the magnification. So by putting these step-down rings on, I've effectively added about 3/4 of an inch to the front of this setup. So I'm going to take this Nikon because it's here and I haven't used it and I don't want to have grabbed it for nothing. And now I can mount this Nikon, which is also a 52 millimeter thread, on the front of the Pentax. And there's just a little bit more space between the front element and the film plane because of these spacers, which will increase the effective magnification. So that's a fairly basic primer on using reverse lens adapters. These are by far the cheapest macro solution. Let's see, my expensive, this one, the 55 millimeter adapter was my most expensive adapter, and it cost me $4. on eBay, brand new, including shipping. So this one was free, and the 67, which I also got off eBay brand new, was $3 and some odd cents, including shipping. So for cost-conscious macro photography, a reverse adapter ring is going to be your best bet, because you can take an existing lens, mount it backwards on your camera, and achieve macro photography, assuming that your lens will work mounted backwards, which not all of them do. One disadvantage to this, aside from the fact that not all lenses are going to work, is that the lenses being used were not necessarily engineered, definitely not engineered to be used backwards on a lens. So they're not going to have the type of correction that would be seen with a true macro lens, where a true macro lens can photograph a stamp at one to one, where the stamp will be the same size on the film negative or on the full frame digital sensor, without noticeable distortion. Depending on the lens you use, that might not be the case if you mount a lens backwards onto your camera. But in terms of cost, you can't beat bang for the buck with a reverse lens adapter.